Well, after the Base Camp 6 got destroyed, we got a really good deal on a Kingdom 6 used along with the mudroom for 240 bucks at a consignment place. And we're on our first camping trip since our national park trip. We're in a place called Lake Conasauga. It is the highest elevation lake in Georgia, and it's about 15 degrees cooler or more than Chattanooga. So it's a nice place to get away in the summer. And relatively small lake. We paddle boarded it earlier today along with the kids in their kayaks, and I thought in such a beautiful place I would show you something. There are a few things in life that I have become relatively obsessive about, one of which is the knife that I carry every day. I've had a Leatherman ever since I was like 6 or 7 years old. I started with the Super Tool, and I think at some point I lost it or gave it away. I've owned several Leathermans since. I've probably owned in total 15, and I can be a little obsessive about exactly what I want to carry and exactly what I want it to do. And so I'm not suggesting that you go to these lengths. I think being content with what you have is a great thing, but since I had gone to sort of great lengths, I thought maybe it was worth sharing. So I've owned a Wave, I've owned a Charge, I've owned the titanium Charge, and I always come back to the Wave because it is the thinnest in this dimension, and from an engineering perspective it's the most respectable because they basically were able to bend one piece of sheet metal to make this whole body, and that's very cool. And basically the Charge and the titanium are really sort of more rudimentary versions with fancy scales, and it's really an aesthetic thing. And even the titanium one is not any lighter, even though it's made out of titanium, and it's not any thinner. So that's the reason I've stuck with the Wave, in this case the Wave Plus. So I'm a big fan of this little clip that you can add on, but I won't go into that because you can just buy one of those if you want. So even though this is the Wave Plus, I exchanged the blade for the one from the Charge, 154 cm. I have used the one from the titanium. I think it's S30V or SV30, but I didn't think it was necessarily that much better or different, so I'm happy with this one. I've also exchanged the serrated blade for the one with the gut hook. I don't hunt, so I've never used the gut hook for its intended purpose, but this is extremely useful for cutting straps, cutting packages, cutting various things in just a very controlled manner where you don't have to worry about cutting into something which is underneath like you would with a normal knife. I use this way more than I thought I would. I used to think it was kind of just for hunters, but this is actually extremely useful. I left the saw and I left the file. It has the upgraded jaws, which is what you get when you get the Plus. And then I kept on the one side the mini screwdriver and the bit holder, and on the other side I have another bit holder, and I left the bottle can opener with the wire stripper. I'm probably going to change this. This has got a T20 and 25 in it. Working the last 16 years at Volkswagen, I used T20 all the time, so this was really handy to have. I doubt that it'll be that handy in the future for my new life, but we'll see. I'll leave it there for now and see what happens. So a couple other comments. I have purchased one of the Frees, the new, I think whatever the fully loaded Free was. I bought it right when it first came out because I thought their innovations were very significant. The magnetic closure is awesome. The thumb activated one hand opening for everything is awesome. I just was very disappointed with the assortment of tools. I didn't like that you couldn't get something like these on it. I didn't like the design of some of the tools. Just as an example, on the serrated one, you will see that this taper, sorry, losing focus, this taper where my thumb is going backward, which means you can get this tip right into a corner. But on the new one, the taper is the other way. So basically, imagine, it's more like that, so that you could pierce into something perhaps more easily, but you could never get into the corner. And I actually use that little tip quite often for getting into stuff, because the angle to get into the corner is much more comfortable like this than it is to go like this to get in there. So I was disappointed. I can't remember if I think it didn't offer a file, or if it did, it didn't offer the diamond coated file, which I use quite regularly. And the saw had the same design, where instead of having the ability to get a tooth right up into the corner of something, it was tapered back like that. So it was for piercing, but you don't really pierce with a saw. So I thought the free assortment of tools was bad for me, but the technology was awesome. And so the day that they come out with a free that has a better assortment of tools, I'll be buying one. I know that the Leatherman Garage recently did a project like that, so I think I'm not the only one who appreciates that, but we'll see. So yeah, to do a custom project like this, all you really need is some tamper-proof Torxes. You can, I forget the size, I think it's a T10 or a TT10. You can find them all over the place. They're not hard to find now with the internet. And you just need a little care. There's some little copper washers in here, but it's not rocket science. And you just use some Loctite on these screws, so that as you open and close these things, they don't loosen up on you. And then the last thing I would say from an economic standpoint is, I found if you go to eBay, you can buy individual blades, individual saws, but they're relatively expensive. I think like you might spend $30 or $40 just on this blade right here. So what I would recommend doing if you want to do a custom project like this is buy either new or used the whole tool. Like buy the Leatherman Wave, buy the Leatherman Charge, buy the Leatherman Titanium. You might be out $350 or whatever, and then take what you want and then sell the pieces individually. Obviously eBay takes a little cut, but you can sell the bit holders, you can sell the awls, most of it you can sell back, and you can basically break even or even make a little bit of money. And that's one of these strange things in the world, that you can buy something, take it apart, sell the pieces, and make more than if you just bought the thing. So I wouldn't buy a Leatherman and then try and buy that and try and buy that. That'll be more expensive in the long run. Then again, it'll also be easier. The better thing to do is to buy 2 or 3 or 4 of the tools that you want the pieces from, and then either make a Frankenstein and resell it. There are people who are excited to buy a custom Leatherman, and even though it might not be the combination of tools you like, it might be a combination of tools they like, or piece them back out. And that's what I did. I pieced them back out, and I basically made all my money back. So this really just cost me what a normal Wave Plus would cost. So yeah, it seems like I'm not the only one who's obsessive about everyday carry, as they call it. I'm fairly obsessive about the knife and the flashlight, which I'll do another video on. I've bought and sold many, sort of looking for that perfect pocket knife. And here in Chattanooga, I will say that I need 2 pocket knives. This is what I carry in the cooler months when I'm wearing jeans. But to put this in a very lightweight sort of gym short pocket is just too much. It just bounces around like crazy. So I also carry a very lightweight Spyderco Dragonfly 2, and I normally just keep this in the car. So yeah, hopefully that is interesting or helpful to someone, and if it is, then I'm glad. If not, move along, go find a better video. Take care, guys.